I'm going to talk about how we can represent groups or sets of data of information in PHP. So we're going to look at arrays and how they're structured. We're going to look at how we store things in them, how we create them, how we add to and remove from them, and how we iterate, that's how we loop over arrays using for each. We'll come back to add and remove later. In this video, we're just going to look at creating, storing and iterating. So arrays are collections of data which are normally organised in a way that's represented in this diagram. So each item of data has a number called an index, which you can use to refer to it. It helps us to picture it like this, although you don't necessarily have to use those numbers to get at the data. There are times when it's useful to do that. So note that in programming things start with 0. We always start at 0 in programming. So though there are 5 items, there's only 0 to 4. Groups of information like this, it's useful to store it like this rather than a set of data, than a set of single variables. If we want to group things together, if we want to refer to them using only one variable name, or if we want to do the same thing over and over again. So say I wanted to print out all these minion names with them stored in an array, I can write a loop that will do this with one line of code, or rather the loop plus one line of code for the printing, however many minions we've got in our list. Okay, to create an array, we give it a variable name. So this is the variable that we use to refer to our array. And we use this array keyword. Now don't worry too much about why it's got these empty brackets. Just know that we need to say array with some brackets and not forgetting our semicolon as always to create the new array. So we've got an array called the array, and we've set up some variables that we want to put in it. So we've got an apple, an orange and a pear, and we want to add those to the array. So one way of doing that is to use something called array push. Now we haven't looked at functions, so we'll come back and explain later why this is done like this, but basically we use the name of the function, the array that we're adding to, and then the data that we're adding. Those are the 3 parts that we need. Don't forget the comma between the 2 variables. So we're going to add each of these items and it will have added them in order, so apple, orange and pear. We can also do that in one go at the beginning. So if we know what data we've got when we start, we can add it all in one go like we've done in this example. So I've created an array. You'll notice it's got this same name, so this is going to have overwritten the previous array. You'll also notice that this one has an uppercase A, whereas the other one had a lowercase a. This doesn't matter. They'll both do the same thing. They've both highlighted with the syntax highlighting to show that they're a keyword. So both of these will create a new array. That one creates an empty one. That one creates one containing Bob, Kevin, Stuart and Dave. We can loop through arrays using a very nice construct in PHP called a for each loop. Now, I've used the word iteration here. We basically mean loop when we say iteration, but iteration is the technical term for it. So I will say we iterate over the array myArray. And each loop through, so each time this echo command runs, that is a single iteration. Okay, so I've created my array, just a small one this time with Bob, Jerry and Stuart, and it basically does what it says it's going to. So for each item in the array, it stores the next name, the next string in that minion variable. So the first time it runs, it will print minion and then Bob. The second time, the second iteration through, it will put Jerry in this minion variable. So minion Jerry will print out. The third time, it will put Stuart into the minion variable. And surprise, surprise, it will print minion Stuart. So it does all of the hard work for us. It puts the values in the variables for us, and we can then just do what we like with them. So we can print them out, we can perform some arithmetic with them, whatever we like. So that is what you are going to do. To start with, you're going to create a new sample PHP file. Doesn't need to have any fancy HTML, just call it testarrays.php, and create an array using one of these methods that contains your favourite foods, and then use a for each loop to print out all of those foods. It should start with an explanation line like my favourite foods, and it should have enough HTML formatting that it's not all squished up on one line, so make it look vaguely attractive. Okay, secondly, if you finish that, and everyone should get to this point, you're going to download the simple file shown at the bottom of this slide called numbers.php. You're going to add some code that calculates the sum of those numbers. By that, I mean 3 plus 6 plus 9 plus 12 and so on. And it must use a for each loop. I don't want you just typing in total equals 3 plus 6 plus 9 and so on. Then add some more code. Once you've got the total, can you calculate the average of those numbers? So simple use of a for each to do some maths.